The evolution of the Rik Mayall movie. Richard Michael Mayall, aka Rik Mayall, was an English comedian, actor and writer. Mayall formed a close partnership with Ade Edmondson while he was student at Manchester University and became a pioneer of alternative comedy in the 1980s.
Get off my property! No! Get out!
Born the 7th of March 1958 in Harlow, Essex, and he died tragically on the 9th of June 2014, only 56 years of age. The comedian suffered a heart attack following a morning run with his wife. We miss him, and his death was, like I said, a true tragedy to not just comedy but film and TV. You'll know him as Richard.
Hello? Lovely weather. I can't see you, obviously, but I bet you've all got smashing glasses on. My name's Richard, and I'm looking for a friend.
Drop Dead Fred.
Got some dog poo right here.
Mr. Davis, the Papa in Mandown.
You.
And Rick from the Young Ones.
Okay, pop music, let's go. Anyone here like the Human League? Okay.
Right, the music's too loud. The neighbours have been complaining.
Rik Mayall began his career in 1980. The Squad, drama series dealing with the experiences of young cadets as they go through police training. He was a first supporter. I still don't know what one of those are to this day. The next bit, his second shot to fame, was brilliant. He sang part of Look What I Did to My Id on Shock Treatment, 1981 movie. Also starring Richard O'Brien. So you got the two dicks there. Directed by Jim Sharman, known for the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I see you shiver with anticipation.
And as always, I'm going to say this a lot, but it's just great seeing Rik Mayall at the start of his career. Then played PC Fell in
Ever since I became a cop, and you don't even play it very well.
Walcott miniseries. A black policeman is promoted to the CID and battles the drug trade in London's East End. London, Essex. London, Essex. Essex. London, Essex. London, Essex. London, Essex. And he didn't half look handsome in this as PC Fell. He looked really handsome. There's a picture of him. Rick put on a sailor outfit. In Eye of the Needle, 1981. Ken Follett novel of the same name. Donald Sutherland-led movie, also starring Bill Nye. A ruthless German spy trying to get out of Britain with vital information about D-Day and will spend time with a young woman and her disabled husband. And it was an American movie. Richard Marquand directed. He's known for Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. So Richard Marquand did Eye of the Needle. And it was a first full-length feature of Rik Mayall. So it was very pivotal in his career. His next venture was a very small part of a very big movie. You watch it to this day and go, it's Rik Mayall. As the notorious second chess player in An American Werewolf in London. Now, I've mentioned this movie so many times in my other videos, so I'll keep it brief. Like me on the pants, I'll keep it brief. Werewolf movie, John Landis, transformation scene, the amazing soundtrack in this. So before I go on, in 1981, Rik Mayall did 10 projects. 10 projects in 1981, and we're only on number 4 with A Kick Up the 80s. I love that title, A Kick Up the 80s. Pretty big because he got a full name, and that's very important in this industry. Kevin Turvey.
Bogey face. Good evening, I suppose. Thought I was supposed to have this week off.
Turvey, an awkward and socially inept character who spoke with a broad West Midlands accent. So he had a broad West Midlands accent. Was a self-styled investigative journalist who still lived with his mother, wore a shapeless blue anorak, fancied a local girl, and really ventured outside his hometown of Redditch. Each week, his investigations amounted to little more than an overexcited, rambling, uniformed monologue delivered straight to the camera. But we love it. We loved it. The show was a sketch show that originally explored a theme each week: work, death, sex. A Kick Up the 80s teleseries also starred Tracy Ullman, who you'll know from starting The Simpsons off. Robbie Coltrane. You're a wizard, Harry. Rik was the busiest man in 1981. That's his title. He was the busiest man in 1981. One of Rik's very early dramatic roles was Next, a film short called Couples and Robbers. Now brace yourself. It was nominated for 1 Oscar. Which is fantastic for a short film. Yeah. 2 couples, one with all the riches that dreams are made of, the other with only dreams and schemes, are brought together. Rik was Morris David Boyd.
Right.
Right.
Fine.
Fine.
And his part reminds me of a similar part he played in Dancing Queen, the short. So straight after the couple's short, he was Rest Home Ricky in Shock Treatment, like we mentioned. He played another constable. He played another constable. A policeman in The Orchard End Murder. The Orchard End Murder. Kevin Turvey investigates. The character was so popular it got its own thing. Speaking of famous characters, another came along. Richard Dangerous. Oh, mama.
He's also a serious fire hazard. Look.
The Dangerous Brothers, I should correctly say, originally appearing on stage in London at the comic strip, and I think this was the first time Rik and Aid appeared together on stage, so it's pretty big. This was the start of the magic between them. The comic strip was pretty big. Dickie played a lot of characters, most famously Colin Grigson, Mr. McVitie, Professor Predictor. Before 1982. Wood and Walters. Wood and Walters TV series. He was a contestant and a character called Mitch.
Talk about sexism and why I'm a feminist. And this is strictly for the guys. So hey girls, why don't you just fix some drinks, get sexy, because when I finish with your fella, he's going to know how to treat you.
Various sketches written by the late Victoria Wood and starring Julia Walters, hence the name. Whoops Apocalypse TV series, a light-hearted look at the final week before Doomsday. Rik was Biff. No, not that Biff you might be thinking of from Back to the Future. No, not that Biff from Biff and Chip books. Biff the guitar player in Autumn Cannibalism episode of Whoops Apocalypse. Whoops Apocalypse starred Richard Griffiths, that's difficult to say, Richard Griffiths from Harry Potter, Jeffrey Palmer, and John Cleese.
Damn good dressing!
Now, like I mentioned briefly before, Kevin Turvey got another shot of fame through The Man Behind the Green Door TV short at this year, 1982. But I think this was a bit overshadowed by the next one, Kevin. The Young Ones. 1982 to 1984.
In every lifetime comes a love like this. Oh, I need you, you need me. Oh, my darling, can't you see, young one?
Rik played self-proclaimed anarchist who was studying sociology or domestic sciences, depending on the episode you choose. Rik writes bad poetry and styles himself the people's poet, believing himself to be the spokesman for the generation. He is in fact the hypocritical, tantrum-throwing, attention-seeking Cliff Richard fan. Oh, but we love him to death. Ade Edmondson played Vivian. Christopher Ryan was Mike the cool person, and Nigel Planner as Neil Whedon Watkins Pye. The crazy and sometimes surreal comedic adventures of four very different students in Thatcher's Britain. Thatcher. Every time I think of Young Ones, the first thing that pops into my head is Ade Edmondson losing his head in an episode. Rik Mayall dancing to that famous track by the Human League. Rik Mayall once remarked in an interview that the Young Ones were designed to be a nuclear family, with Neil as the mother, Mike as the father, Vivian as the rebellious young son, and Rik as the daughter, complete with pigtails. According to Ed Bye, goodbye Ed Bye, the show was surprisingly popular with policemen, a fact which upset Rik Mayall greatly. Some of my favourite lines uttered from Rik are as follows.
You did it on purpose because you know I've got a runny bottom. Well, there's a horrible farty smell in here, and it's definitely not from my bottom. I'm so hungry I could eat my own earwax. And we all know how horrid that tastes. Right, kids?
And I like the fact that they did break the fourth wall as well. It was so, like I said before, anarchistic. Rik dancing to The Things That Dreams Are Made Of by the Human League. Other songs that feature in the TV series are Rip, Rig and Panic with You're My Kind of Climate, Mama Told Me Not to Come by Three Dogs Night, and It's My Party by Dave Stewart and Barbara Gaskin.
It's my party and I cry if I want to, cry if I want to.
Mayall made such an appearance in his next one, Mad Gerald. In the Black Seal episode, and he's so funny in this, The Blackadder. You're going to hear that name again, I'll tell you that for free. National Treasure TV show Blackadder, starring Rowan Atkinson and Tony Robinson, plus many, many more. 1984 had Mayall in The Lenny Henry Show.
Why? That's all I want to know. Why?
I'm sorry, I don't even know who you are.
Excuse me. Yes, you do.
I love Lenny Henry. I even love his most recent stuff back in the noughties. Him as Beyonce, and he had these really strange characters in his newest show back in the day.
Yes, he does.
I just love Rik Mayall in this Lenny Henry show. That's simply put, really. He was in the Canner and Ball show. (1985), he acted in Nikolai Gogol's play. Nikolai Gogol. You never heard that name again, would you? Nikolai. Hello. Nikolai Gogol's play. The Government Inspector. Then was a priestly priest. I knew he played another religious character. I knew he did. This won't be the first time we're going to see him be religious. He was a priest in Happy Families. Now, the big family together in this: Jennifer Saunders, Ade Edmondson, Dawn French, Hugh Laurie, Stephen Fry, Helen Lederer, Jim Broadbent, Una Stubbs to our Rik. Next round, barman. Jackanory. Jackanory as the storyteller and reader.
So be a good boy and don't get up to mischief.
He managed to upstage himself from Mad Gerald to Flashheart in Blackadder.
Flash by name, flash by nature. Thanks, bridesmaid. Like the beard. Gives me something to hang on to. Hey, kids, it doesn't matter what you are. Punks, skins, rastas, mords, rockers, Keith Chegwin even. Everybody everywhere, stop snogging and pay attention to me.
Now, I must not forget to mention Cliff Richard teaming up with the Young Ones, or should I say the Young Ones teaming up with Cliff Richard to sing Living Doll in 1986. And they got another shot of fame, didn't it, the song? And I just think I respect Cliff Richard so much for being involved in this. They made a movie from the TV show Whoops Apocalypse. Rik Mayall is featured playing the commanding officer of an inept SAS squad, specialist catering commander. You may recognise Peter Cook and Herbert Lom in this. Well, I do anyway. You might know someone completely different. And now for something completely different.
And now for something completely different.
Richard Dangerous popped up more famously in Saturday Live, the British version of SNL, with comedy idols Harry Enfield, Ben Elton, Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie, Rick Mayall and Jen Saunders. The big part in this being World of Danger, where Adrian looks like Beetlejuice and Rick has his hair greased back and he was in a suit as the Dangerous Brothers again. Pray silence for the next venture. Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, 1987, as Early Richie Rich. I always get called that. The VHS and the DVD versions were cut for musical rights. These included Richie singing Morning Has Broken, Morning Has Broken, and Consider Yourself, Consider Yourself. And Eddie, on the other hand, singing Roxanne by The Police and You've Got to Pick a Pocket or Two. And another Police song, Message in a Bottle. Written by Ben Elton. At the cast, we have Rick with Aid and Nigel Planer, who played Neil from the Young Ones. Gertrude Richie Rich, a perennially resting out-of-work comedian and TV presenter, whose most prominent work to date includes links on TVs. Despite this, he considers himself, consider yourself, a veritable superstar, and he has paranoid delusions about everyone he meets, wants to either cash in on his fame or assassinate him. Hence why he hires a bodyguard. So a main factor in the show only lasting one series was a falling out between Rik Mayall and Ben Elton over writing privileges, which is a big crying shame, really. 1987, French and Saunders. He was Dawn's co-star.
And there is an inexplicably horrible scene happening up here, madam.
He popped up in another movie, Eat the Rich, as Mickey Love, with Saunders.
I've seen you on the TV, but you really look much younger in real life.
Really? Not bad looking yourself.
Is it true you're going to be in the country to sneeze on Monday?
Uh-huh.
Now this is pretty big. Motorhead's Lemmy was Spider. Paul McCartney also stars with the family, Coltrane, Saunders, Edmondson, French in Eat the Rich. I've just realised I mentioned the word Rich and Richard a lot today for this. And my name's at the bottom of the screen as well, so it's even more. Mayall was a troll.
In the dungeon! Turn around in the dungeon!
In Jake's Journey, 1988, a normal teenager is transported to a Monty Python-esque medieval fantasy land where an odd, adamant knight takes him on a quest. Harold and Maude, 1971 director Hal Ashby was behind the lens for Jake's Journey. Flash Hart was back in Blackadder Goes Forth in 1989. Hopefully there's a video out there which has them all his Flash Hart and his appearances in Blackadder all together.
Go all girly and giggly every time you...
Before he played the perfect role of an alternative comedian in Snakes and Ladders TV show, which this part is ideal for Rik Mayall, being an alternative comedian himself. Took to it like a duck takes to water. Now, it's not, the Snakes and Ladders is not based on the board game, as I thought, but here's a clip of it.
There's your dandy, look. There's something inside. Page 3.
Come the 90s, 1991, Little Noises. Rik was Matthias, the literary agent. Yeah, I know you expecting a god, weren't you? But no, a literary agent. A struggling writer, played by Crispin Glover, steals poems written by his mute friend to achieve fame and fortune. This year he also lent his voice as the narrator in Grim Tales. Rik Mayall energetically narrates a series of stories adapted from the tales written by the brothers Grimm.
Sneaky brother started eating. Slurpily and burpily and so greedily he had 2 spoons in each hand. This is great. This is my favourite thing. Ow, that's the plate.
I hope you're holding on to something tight. I hope you are, and prepare yourself. Bottom. 1991 to 1995. As Richard, and Edward Elizabeth Eddie Hitler and Richard. They're both slobby bachelor flatmates living in a filthy damp flat at 11 Mayficking Parade.
Happy birthday to me! Happy birthday to me! Happy birthday, dear Richie! Happy birthday to me! Happy birthday to me! Happy birthday, dear Richie! Happy birthday!
Wouldn't you just wish to go on that set? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you just wish... Oh, that'd be my dream, that, to go on that set.
Yes, yes, you did win. I mean, for heaven's sake, Eddie, it's only a game. Shit. VD. Why do I bloody lose everything, always?
And at this time, I wanted to make a detour, because we're talking about bottom. Not that bottom. We're talking about bottom. And I need to talk about the live shows. We have Bottom Live in 1993 at the Mayflower Theatre. The Big Number 2 tour. Hooligans Island, 2001, An Arse Oddity. We have 2003, the Weapons Grade Y-Fronts tour. I think I've pretty much seen all of them because I love the live shows dearly. But when we're talking about the TV program, we're talking about my favourite episodes. First place would be Bottomed Up.
Hey, and here's one for you, Eddie. Well, no. Haven't you got a sort of brown one for him?
Second place would be the Halloween episode.
If only we'd known it was Halloween, we could have made an absolute fortune.
And third place would be the camping episode.
Hope the bed bugs do not bite.
If they do a poo, put it in the Cornish stew.
Those are the ones that I always go to and I always enjoy the most. If you comment below of your favourite episodes, your favourite top 3 episodes of Bottom, if you can choose. And watching the episodes now makes you feel closer to Rik. I know it sounds strange, but there's something magical about it. And when you view it, Adrian Edmondson and Rik Mayall originally planned to call the series Your Bottom, which I think would have worked as well, so that viewers would be heard to say such things as, I saw your bottom on the television last night. I saw your bottom on the television last night, on the cooler moment. A fourth series was, this is just going to break your hearts. It breaks my heart. A fourth series was written sometime after the third, but was never commissioned by the BBC. Boo, BBC, boo. Over the years, Rik Mayall and Adrian Edmondson repeatedly considered to return as their bottom characters. According to Edmondson, one of those ideas involved an elderly Richie and Eddie living in a retirement home where we would be hitting each other with colostomy bags. I don't know about you, but I would pay to see that. And there are 18 episodes of just gold. Really are. And that theme tune as well. You've got to talk about the theme tune and the great closing silhouettes, which I always remember. And if I may say so, that's a smashing blouse you've got on. And next, he was finally recognised again over the pond in the United States of America. With Drop Dead Fred, 1991, as the notorious Drop Dead Fred, the best imaginary friend ever. Hey, Snotface!
The mega bitch! Let me at her!
And get the tissues at the ready as well for the laughter and the tears, because there are lots of tears, because this film broke my damn heart when I watched it. A young woman finds her already unstable life rocked by the presence of a rambunctious imaginary friend from childhood. So the best scenes are Rick's, because of course he steals the show every time, when he crawls underneath her mother and says, "Wow, cobwebs."
Cobwebs.
When mother slams his head in the fridge and he has that flat face. "My head! The mega bitch squashed my head."
Oh, my head! The mega bitch squashed my head! The bitch!
Not forgetting the dog poo scenes, which, oh god, the dog poo scenes. My favourite scene has to be the ending, which, look, just take a look for yourself. It is heartbreaking. Phoebe Cates was Elizabeth. Carrie Fisher was Janie with Mayall. Now this one, hopefully you don't know, which always sticks in my mind. Robin Williams was also offered the role of Drop Dead Fred, but instead chose to play Peter Banning in Hook, 1991. That's just a mind-blowing piece of trivia. Writers Anthony Fingleton and Carlos Davis wrote the part of Fred just for Rik Mayall, who even threw ideas into the script, such as the opening where Elizabeth's mother reads her a bedtime story and she swears, and Freddie sinking the houseboat. 1991 is also a famous year for Rick because he did his first animation.
Should take revenge!
The Princess and the Goblin. The Princess and the Goblin, 1991. Prince Froglip, the feared yet spoiled and infantile heir to the Goblin throne. Princess Irene and her newfound friend Curdie battle a Goblin king and queen, along with their foul son Prince Froglip, and save the kingdom with an old mining knowledge, some thread, and the help of Irene's magical great-great-grandmother. And we've all got a magical great-great-grandmother, haven't we?
I want to have them eating the dirt from under my fingernails!
The Hauntings' Claire Bloom was Irene. Oh, come on, Irene. Willy Wonka's Roy Kinnear was Mump. Hungarian movie director was behind The Princess and the Goblin. And Super Ted writer Robin Lyons. Rick joined the Carry On movies. Carry On Columbus, 1992. Jim Dale was Christopher Columbus. The awesome, I love this man so much, Bernard Cribbins was Mordecai. Not the wrestler you might be thinking of, Mordecai in Columbus. Rik Mayall was the Sultan of Swing.
With the Sultans, with the Sultans of Swing.
No, not the Sultan of Spain, the Sultan of Turkey. I love Mayall's line in this. I don't care what they get up to, as long as they don't do it in the street and frighten the camels. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. The carry-on man, Gerald Thomas, was behind the lens, which you'd expect. And I just love seeing him all dressed up. That's just me, though. I just love seeing him all dressed up. Now, a pretty big one came along in 1993. Dancing Queen. His name was Neil. Yeah, his name was Neil. And this part does remind me of Couples and Robbers a little bit. And you should watch this show. You really should. Write it down on a piece of paper so you don't forget and watch it. Dancing Queen, the movie, 1993. It follows the misfortune of Neil, a bridegroom trying to get back to his bride with the help of his newfound friend, Pandora, a.k.a. Julie, played by Bonham Carter, the stripper. Martin Clunes is in it too.
Tie down the sheep! Make mine a pretty one!
Now, this was one of 3 hour-long dramas that Rik Mayall did for ITV in the summer, in the city of 1993. Others were Mickey Love, and Briefest Encounter. I just love that name, Briefest Encounter. He played Greg. Made by ITV, very British, and I love Mayall's and Carter's chemistry. The music, everything. It's fandabidozy. It's a great rom-com with a great plot.
To Neil and Sophie.
To Neil and Sophie.
That Mr. Major even named a group of dissident ministers bastards in his honour.
True.
Last Thursday, Alan Bastard returned to the House of Commons. Then do you see your astonishing victory as an indication of an upturn in the government's fortunes?
Of course, it's good news for the government, Brian, as it is for the country and, well, the entire Western world.
In 1985, he acted in Simon Gray's play, Cellmates, at the Albury Theatre in London with Stephen Fry. Mayall then played Ratner in Look at the State We're In. Look at the state we're in. The family we expect in this, the cast, with added Hugh Laurie, Ben Miller, and John Cleese. We're going to talk about something here, the bottom live performances. The first being the second being the big number 2 tour, which I love. And all of them in general are an experience on their own. From all their live performances we have the time they had the heckler and ruined him. The time when they went off script and just did their own thing.
You want to give me the feed line again in front of all your friends?
The time Rick and Aid did the accents, how to speak Nottingham.
Nottingham. Fucking hell, hello!
Yeah, go on. Go over to the front, have a bit of a look.
All right.
Do it to Hamlet.
Okay, I will. To be, slidle.
Many a time they forgot their lines. The bloopers, and all the bloopers are just magical in their own right.
And then a quick ogle.
He did 2 more animations. The Snow Queen and the Wind in the Willows. Robber King in Snow Queen. Robber Gang of Humanoid Rats. The Robber King. Snow Queen had lots of famous voices. Helen Mirren, Hugh Laurie, the beloved David Jason, and the one and only Rik Mayall. He was a toad. in the wind and the willows. I know, shocker, shock horror. This is a toad.
Frog.
How dare you, sir? In this house, we do not use the F word. This is a toad.
Pretty spectacular show came about this time too. Out of My Head.
I'm going to get out of my head. Woo-hoo. Goodbye, squares. I'm going to be me. Whee!
How to Be a Little Sod TV series as Little Sod, set in the baby's perspective of the first years of its life, almost as an instructional video. 1997. Remember Me? Remember Me. My Family's and Extras Robert Lindsay with Mayall, who was Ian. He was Ian.
And everybody's high on drugs. I guess they're on E. They call it Ian, ecstasy.
E. Are you Ian?
Some beautiful girl.
Are you Ian? Come here. I want to talk to you. Are you Ian?
No, I'm Pablo.
And here's a picture of the amazing Rik Mayall in Remember Me. Director of Undertaking Betty, starring Lee Evans, and Doctor Who from 2011 to 2013. Same year, he was in another film, Bring Me the Head of Mavis Davis. Black comedy. He was a record company owner and agent, Marty Starr. He dyed his hair bleach blonde for this role. Brit cast, Jane Horrocks, Mark Warren and Mark Heap. Then he leaped into TV, The Bill. As Patrick Massey. Not a screw this time, he's not a copper. This time a criminal. Spoiler. He was in 2 lengthy episodes of The Bill called Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty.
And you pushed him off the roof.
No.
He got holy again as Reverend Dampier. Obey the Reverend Augustus Dampier.
Stink of corruption. It's the perfume of the charnel house.
With his black long hair and his black soul patch to match. In The Canterville Ghost, a novella originally by Oscar Wilde. Adapted into a movie. In the Red teleseries, series was also starred Sally Phillips from Alan Partridge.
It's fairly well concealed in casual clothing, but you don't want to see me in my underpants.
Reece Shearsmith.
Zombie! Fucking zombie!
Mark Gatiss, Steve Pemberton, also from League of Gentlemen and Psychoville.
To make amends, he could, Oh. Yeah?
And Richard Wilson.
What in the name of bloody hell? I do not believe.
The next one, I'm going to try not to laugh. Okay, serious. Gerald the Gormless in A Monkey's Tale animation. He was in another animation as Bert and Squidge in an animation called It's Itsy Bitsy Time before Richard Twat. It's pronounced Twait.
Mr. Twat. It's pronounced Thwaite.
Guest House Paradiso, 1999.
Is he all right?
Oh, no, he's mad as underpants. But don't you worry, it's terminal. Should you have a personal problem, I am, in fact, a qualified gynecologist. Well, strictly speaking, I'm an amateur, but I'm bloody keen.
Richie and Eddie are in charge of the worst hotel in the UK. Director, Aid Edmondson. Now that is a shock. That is a shocker alone. What always sticks in my head is the motorbike scene at the start and Richie wearing the red rubber lingerie. Yeah, don't ask me why that sticks in my head. Don't ask. For God's sakes, don't ask. This film features possibly the longest vomiting scene ever put on film, lasting for about 10 minutes. When he was interviewed about the film, Rik Mayall said that he considered the film as a 25th anniversary film, as production on this film commenced about 25 years after Rik Mayall and Aid Edmondson first met each other at university, which led them to becoming real-life best friends and a perfect comedy duo. Rik and Aid star, but also we have Vincent Castle, Simon Pegg, Bill Nye and Kate Ashfield from Shaun of the Dead 2. Simon Pegg plays Mr. Nice. Before the millennium, he played Robin Hood in Blackadder Back and Forth, Santa Claus in Santa's Special Delivery before he played a pig on the PlayStation game Hogs of War.
Never have I seen such a shower in all my life! You recruits are here for one reason only!
Great performances. He was King Herod in an episode called Jesus Christ Superstar. Herod is also known as Herod the Great and Herod the First.
I am overjoyed to meet you face to face.
To Simon Reed in The Knock. More telework. Follows the lives of officers from HM Customs as they track down criminals. Again, Mayall looked so good.
We're going to have to do this fast. The shipment's been arranged. How many tons? Plenty.
The Knock is known for starting out Alex Kingston. Hello, sweetie. David Morrissey. And Colin Baker. So he went from a toad in Wind of the Willows to a black-headed gull in Watership Down. Kihar, the seabird. TV series that based on the incredibly sad movie. Before we reach something major in 2001, we had him in Merlin, The Return, as the lead. A scientist awakens King Arthur and his knights, and the forces of good and evil do battle once more. 2001, right, so 2001, this is the year I want to stick in your head. Right, he played Peeves the Poltergeist in the film adaptation of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. But it was deleted, it was cut, which is probably the biggest crime in cinema history. All we can wonder is what it would have been. And it's honestly heartbreaking. It really is. Here's a short clip of Rik talking about Harry Potter.
I did it. And I went and I fucking did it, right? And I played the part of... Hold on, it's coming back to me. He used to fly all over the place. And he was
it a poltergeist or something?
Peeves, that was his name. I was Peeves in Harry Potter. So, I got sent off the set because every time I tried to do a bit of acting, all the lads who were playing school kids, they kept getting the giggles, they kept corpsing, so they threw me off. Well, they asked me to do it with my back to them, and they still laughed. So then, I did a little bit of filming, and then I went home, and I got the money, significant. And then, a month later, they say, Rik, sorry about this. What? You're not in the film. I go, what? So we've cut you out of the film.
Now, to cheer us up after that heart-melting thing we just talked about, here's Rik as a lady. In Tales of Uplift and Moral Improvements. And he's a good-looking lady, I'll tell you that for free. He's a good-looking lady.
Why are the lower classes such degenerate work-shy scum? Because they don't have nannies.
Rik went on to Sherlock Holmes as Lieutenant Daniel Blaney. And then American movie Chili Dogs. or as it's sometimes called, Kevin of the North. The stupid English Carter he was. Oh, the stupid English Carter. He joined legend Leslie Nielsen.
This woman has to be gotten to a hospital.
A hospital? What is it?
It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now.
Skeet Ulrich from Scream. Both appear in that movie. Absolutely fabulous director. Fawlty Towers director. And Spice World director Bob Spears was behind Chili Dogs. Writer William Osborne. And just take a look what he's been up to. He donned the suit as Professor Adonis Knut. Knut. Britain's cleverest man and leading moral philosopher, quadruple Professor Adonis Knut, tackles some of the world's most pressing problems, assisted by a slave-like butler and a beautiful but mentally unbalanced colleague. Believe Nothing, 2002. I just love the tagline as well. Rik Mayall is a Knut. He's not a Knut. Same year, Day of the Sirens as Domo Childs. Year later, Chaos and Cadavers, 2003. Then, Oh Marbella.
First time on the Costa del Sol?
Yeah, first time.
What do you think of the place?
Oh, I love the place, but where we've just been is a different matter.
Well, hopefully, guys, from this day on, things are going to take a turn for the better.
Greg Dubois.
Bonjour. I'm Greg Dubois.
Now, I read a YouTube comment about this. Rick he's only doing what he does best. Playing a real bugger. LOL. EastEnders' Mike Reed's in this. And it's set in Costa del Sol. So that's nice, despite the hammering he got by the critics. But who cares about critics, eh? Rik Mayall is the big salvation of Marbella.
I'll prove it to you. You give me a credit card, and I'll make all your dreams come true right now.
Rick was record boss in ABBA, our last video ever. 4 small puppets who resemble ABBA. He rejoined Eat the Rich, Carry On Columbus Guy for Churchill, The Hollywood Years, 2004. The film is a satire on the Hollywood take on history. It had a huge, monumental cast. Take a look at all their gorgeous faces. Oh, this is sweet. Mayall went back into CBBC. So he's played a toad, a seabird, then Edwin the Eagle in Shoebox Zoo, before lending his voice to 2005's Valiant as henchman Cufflink. As the Allies prepare for the D-Day invasion, a pigeon named Valiant wants to contribute to the war effort. What a cast with Mayall. We got Ewan McGregor, Ricky Gervais, John Hurt, Hugh Laurie, John Cleese to Jim Broadbent, and the sensational, the legendary Tim Curry. Now, my last video was called Evolution of the Tim Curry Movie, like this one, but about Curry instead. If you have enjoyed this video so far, be sure to check out that video about Tim Curry. If you can't find it, hit me a message on facebook.com/Richard Isles Radio Show, ISLES, and I'll happily give you a link to it. Also, I must mention mixcloud.com/Richard-Isles/Rik-Mayall special. That's available. It's available for you to enjoy after this. It's a radio special about Rik Mayall, essentially. Now, Cufflink and Underlink are the secondary antagonists in the Disney film Valiant. They are Von Talon's minions. And we all know who played Von Talon. 2005, he was George Kinsey in All About George.
People say I bear a resemblance to him. I can't see it myself. For one thing, he's dead.
He dipped into SpongeBob 2006 and Snow White, the sequel, in 2007. A TV commercial, a voiceover for Toilet Duck and Andrex the Puppy. And I remember this show, I do actually remember this next one, King Arthur's Disasters, with Matt Lucas and Rik Mayall together, and this was brilliant. I remember watching this. I was a teenager and I enjoyed this. when it came out. He jumped straight into live-action television, Minder. As Maurice Robinson in 2009, Midsummer Murders, David Roper in episode The Creeper the same year. Now this is a really strange one, it really is, because we see Rik Mayall's character dead in a morgue. Watching it now, it gives you goosebumps, it truly does. I remember watching it, it was on a repeat and it came on just after his death, and honestly, it really does send shivers down your spine. Agatha Christie's Marple TV series, he was Alec Nicholson. Just for the record, that's the name of the movie. Just for the record, 2010. An uproarious mockumentary about the British film industry. We got Danny Dyer. Danny Dyer was Derek. Not that Derek you might be thinking of. Ricky Gervais's Derek. But Derek Lafarge. And there's a character called Malcolm Mental Fists Wicks. I thought you should know that. Malcolm Mental Fists Wicks. Dickie played Andy Wiseman in Just for the Record. He was a narrator, 2010, before President Pinky. President Pinky. Pinky swear he was President Pinky in The Itch of the Golden Knit. Before going into a horror comedy musical, Highway to Hell, 2012. El Dorado was the original title of Highway to Hell. Rick was Chef Mario. We got badasses Michael Madsen, David Carradine, Darla Hannah, Bridget Nielsen, and let's not forget Bill Moseley from The Devil's Rejects. The Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, Fast and the Furious' Tyrese Gibson, Peter O'Toole in Highway to Hell. Now, Highway to Hell just makes me think of Errors in the Human Body. He was Samuel Meade in 2012. He was a policeman again, which is ironic considering what we talked about with the young ones. For the third and final time. 2013 he was in a wheelchair, but in 1998 he was not in a wheelchair. In Jonathan Creek. 2013, it's another strange one. He was Death in Don't Fear Death, the short. Man down! We got a man down! Man down. He was Greg Davis's dad, Dan's dad. And people have always said that there's a really uncanny similarity between Greg Davis and Rick. It's so crazy, isn't it? I love him in this. He's got that long, wavy, beautiful hair, the grey beard, the perfect farter figure. Well, he's a bit dirty, but a lot of people remember the romantic story he tells, which is so funny. I love it.
Every night. 18 months and 11 days.
That is one of the most romantic stories I've ever heard.
Well, anyway, all's well that ends well. Eventually, I fucked her against that wall.
He steals the show. He really does as well. His antics in the series. The creator was Greg Davis as well. Now, Davis does talk about and how hard it was dealing with Mayall's death and how much it affected him on the best talk show ever, The Graham Norton Show.
He was amazing, though. He was a force of nature.
From jackanory to crackanori as the storyteller. In Space No One Can Hear You Clean and The Weatherman.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rik Mayall, and I'm on Crackanori.
A year after the tragedy in 2014, 2015, a Dutch film, he appeared in a Dutch film called The Escape. He played Eddie. No, not Eddie Hitler. He played Eddie. And all I'm going to say about this is that here's a clip from it, and it's his last. I can't give it justice. This is his last performance, so it's always going to be. It's going to have that heavy side to it.
Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle.
Now, if you have enjoyed this video, thank you very much. Be sure to check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/Richard Isles Radio Show, or my Mixcloud for the Rik Mayall special. And have a lovely day, and thank you so much again.